Welcome back. Hello, to another underground science random recording of whatever happens. Pardon me that it is a little slower at times just because I'm literally just recording. I don't know what I'm gonna say. I don't know. I might as well have just sat down and hit record. That's how it is. Generally, I pulled up this map, and that's essentially as far as I got. I was generally after last night feeling like I made some progress over here in my Wild Wild West video in the previous one. And I noticed this, so this caught my attention. Is the Precambrian here specifically is like a ring that reaches down here and up here. And so suggesting that there was some redistribution of this material in a essentially in a relationship to this. Maybe I'm not sure if this is, let's say this Precambrian is like Yellowstone is there maybe across. Let's check this one out. Not good. Okay. It's way better picture, but it's just not high pixels. That's looking like a lot of data. Although the color scheme is not that great. Precambrian is very hard to distinguish here if it's even listed in that type of manner. Let's see what this is. Doesn't show. Doesn't have a legend or whatever. Except this one right here. Pardon me, I couldn't resist. It really doesn't have a legend. Well, that makes it less useful for on the fly right now. At least it looks like it has information worthy of checking out. I'll say that. This is the kind of thing I was very much wanting to find, is a map with actual dates. Failed Plutons 100. I believe that's what that is. 130, the Sierra Nevada there. Let's just get the whole paper. Thanks, Robert. 2015 GSA Today, publication of Geological Society of America. Dismemberment and northward migration of the Cordilleran, that R at the end, I don't, orogeny. Cordillera, I don't know. Okay. Undivided Cretaceous plutonic terrains. This mouse. Oh my god. Okay. I'm guessing the or the older stuff tends to be more over here, and then it gets younger this way based on what I discussed yesterday. So let's see. Blue Mountain's 85. So it's kind of moving like this way, but also this way. Post supernova of the Earth is all this brown, which is really out here and here, it looks like. So at the supernova of the Earth, let's go back to this map. If you don't know what I'm talking about right now, at least watch the Wild Wild West video, I would say, because I cannot go through all this information again. Essentially, a current is coming underneath the crust here, but the crust didn't even exist yet. This current is coming across between what was North America's boundary here and what was Australia and Papua New Guinea and other things over here, creating a channel that it goes down, a current that then physically creates an overlayer strong enough and supportive enough to actually accrete continental mass. Like now we have a new continental shelf material over here that was accreted. Okay, so this current though generally is coming, it's wrapping around this at the top, but some of it that gets over here past this region where it basically wraps up. If it goes over here, it goes up, but if it goes down into this region, it kind of preferentially is pulled through this channel. So it goes over here and kind of conglomerates, or not conglomerates, just compiles, maybe not conglomerates, but compiles material that then is like a basin for the energy to flow, which then is, it's almost like a wheel spinning, just shooting material. Then like it just shoots the current out this way, and probably thin, like the narrowness causes a high velocity, it seemed, versus like over here it's much wider region for the current to flow. Like here, even this whole stretch much wider. Current's coming across here, but it's much wider. There is current coming through this region, it appears, from well, there is. I don't know why I said it appears. From here, here's a mantle puncture hole in India. Here's Gujarat, Saurashtra, where Gurnar is. North of that is the mantle puncture hole, which then allowed current to flow out of it. That especially propagated where like the blue is as a current, leaving behind mounds where it didn't go because it pushed, like the current is flowing through and it just pushes to the side these mounds into existing. So as the current flows here, it's shaping the terrain, the underlayer. But this is narrow. This one's wide, so it's much more able to flow at a lower velocity relatively than if it were to be the same flow through a smaller channel, basically. So this smaller channel perhaps plays into, the only reason I find that noteworthy enough to mention is because it seems relevant just going forward. I don't know that it will be, just based on that over here, South America, I gotta turn this a bit, I guess, so it's not so angled. Central America was attached here at this point, which was then fanning out through all of northern South America, as well as punctured the mantle. and created a second opening in the mantle, in the moho, for the mantle to drain from and for energy to drain into. So, okay. So I was looking at this map, or these maps, these general maps, like this one. Where is the one that I had the red, the Precambrian on it? This one. Okay. This one. Almost assuredly, this is the boundary. There? I guess it's probably there. Okay, so if that's there, this is 39.2, 105. .2 is all the way down here. 105 over here, maybe? Like this region. Some reason the currents weren't able to get into this region as much, maybe. There's certainly a nova down here that's centered more here. That maybe when that occurred, it kind of had a boundary over here. Boundary up here. Maybe this nova, some reason, influenced the Precambrian rock enough to just create this structure. That would imply this structure also. Maybe. Just because the whole region appears to be covered in things that are, if it's not exposed, it's probably not going to be listed as Precambrian. This is more so just exposed Precambrian, and to a point where we point it out, I guess. In the distribution of Precambrian rocks is worldwide, but in the United States, rocks of this age are found in the cores of major mountain ranges. For sure, that is because there was a nova type of thing going on here that was just causing an uplifting of Precambrian rock so that it was exposed and behaved as a nucleus to mountains sufficiently to actually be like within the mountain ranges as the core of the mountain ranges. Almost guaranteed, just because of the shape here. Being highly circular, like it represents that region underground where currents were flowing here. It represents here from essentially this boundary over to here and up this way some reason. Not so much over here, it looks like. I don't know why. But then, like that, this thing has Precambrian in it. Which is the finger of this hand I've mentioned before. So here's the hand. Here is the nucleus. Here, this region. Of this nova. Here's Yellowstone. Here's that nucleus. Is right here. is this. Generally around the center of this structure. And then so to the east of that structure is another, like around here. Let's see. 44.1, 103.7. Around here somewhere. A little further east, really. Like 103 points. Was it 103? 103.7 is definitely out in this like void terrain. But it could be related to this like extending at an angle upward. I don't know why exactly it would be like that, but just a thought for why there's really doesn't seem to be like a mirroring of the underlayer with the overlayer's shape in this instance. So there's a nova that occurred here that only reached out to here, but then had a extending bit over here. Out this way. This reminds me just the way that it's spaced here. There's a chunk here, there's a chunk here, but then this is down the middle. These are kind of equidistant. It reminds me of the East African Rift Zone, where there is a inlet of a current underground that came in this way, but then it splits around this region, creating a negative and a positive, and then an alternative negative and a positive, and then an alternative negative and positive. Maybe again with the negative positive. I'm not sure if it continues to do like a really strong negative positive type of downward, upward. But here, what's occurring is there is that inlet that is then getting downward to a point where it then crosses with a stream cutting across here. So that crossing of the streams leads to a vibration of the stream, so that the stream coming down this way begins to vibrate and has a wave-like nature, which is why this being over here and this being over here relative to generally the circle, like if there's a ring here and then a part of the ring is inward this way and a part of it's outward over here, it's suggestive that, especially because this is kind of around where like the major epicenters were, that maybe there was a cross current that just went through this region to a point where it influenced the Precambrian's rock visibility where it is. Like it became over here and here instead of being just like, had that cross current not happened, but everything else happened to a point where everything is identical except for that cross current, then it may be that we would just see Precambrian just continuously down here, like a. But since there was perhaps a cross current in a similar way, probably just generally coming down here and then deflecting like this way. Maybe this exactly is the cross current. It comes down here and wraps off across this way to lead to this region and just cuts across it. So that there's a stream here and a stream cutting across, so that they basically have two cross streams that then have like a node here, which maybe it was centered more over here initially, and then the other aspects of it all led it to be over here as well. Wow, that cross stream went over into here though. Because this is a little anomalous, like it seems to come down this way. It almost looks like it goes over here. But really this one is highly likely to be actually counterclockwise in rotation. And so any off streams are gonna go more like this. And like maybe this, then this way. Like it doesn't really make sense to go backward. It's going backward. It would make sense to go this way. So maybe this is playing into it down here, like this general propagation, to then get stuck here and kind of create a nova there as well. Where is that? 106 or 96. 43. No. Why is that so wrong? I don't understand. It was working. Guess it's around here somewhere. Kind of where this mount, so I know it's kind of weird looking because it's kind of like a demon or something, but it does seem relevant. Maybe here. Here's the Precambrian chunk. Here's Yellowstone. A yin-yang type feature at the wrist, which is actually this. This one being like a flat, so maybe if it even filled in some terrain that was downward, and then this is like the opposite. Generally a yin-yang though. I'm not sure why. Here's the scablands up here. So I do want to keep that in mind as I look at this area. But so over here, I was finding is this region. So it's like it had a cross stream here that could only go so far, and then it ran into resistance underground, leaving behind some semblance of its interaction here. Very potholy. Which is a good sign. There was some like energetic emissions causing porosity in this location, like right at this mouth of this figure. Which only goes up to there for some reason. What was I looking at this? Okay. This is probably that flame, the mouth over here. I don't think it's that. That's the nose, yeah. Nose, flame, mouth region, Cenozoic. Yep. Post. So this was after the Earth expanded to its began to expand. Well, after the rapid phase of the supernova of the Earth began, which was 66 million radiometric dating, when all the bonds of the continents were broken enough where they could actually physically separate. Like, it was still adjacent. They were still adjacent to one another because they were physically, energetically bonded, and that required sufficient activation energy to break the bonds, which happened at 66 million years from internal pressure building up, where then the continents just severed. The bonds between them broke. Boom, 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 boom. Chicxulub, one of them. Voltage crater. Nadir crater. All sorts of things. But also, it looks like when the current that was flowing down through North America along this edge got directed into the continent, then we have all this stuff happen, which is all why North America has so much, like, after 66 million here, all this Cenozoic. Like, Mesozoic is what, 140 or something? 252. Basically, yeah, up until the Earth supernova, it was putting out this, like, green, which then was there, but then when the Earth supernovaed, it began to create this Cenozoic region, as pushing things aside, probably. Like, maybe there's a relationship to this protrusion of Mesozoic, and that this flame kind of shoved energy that way. Maybe also to this Precambrian over here. I'm not sure if it moves it or if it just uplifts it enough where, like, all of this is just uplifted enough to be visible without actually moving it. So it looks like a ring because it was uplifted in a ring, but it wasn't, like, moved to be a ring. It was just uplifted to be a ring. I'm not sure exactly where the accretion occurred. It was probably here. So, like, anything that's Precambrian here was probably because it was actually pre-existent. It wasn't, like, moved there. Like, all this it wasn't moved there. This was the pre-existing boundary, and current was flowing along the boundary here until it got into the boundary, which happened in Australia, where it got into this like region of a circle past a boundary. Once it got past the boundary, it just starts to swirl within the system of the boundary, the natural boundary there, that then creates a swirling region that's visible in the terrain and in this and in this. Since I'm not like specifically talking about any structures, it's kind of like, am I even doing anything right now? But I feel like I'm kind of addressing a lot of these features just by connecting it to this map in a way where, and to the currents flowing, where we can kind of be like, all right, all of these things are related. So it doesn't really matter what they're called. It's just, here's the sequence of events, and that led to the Earth as it is. Like all of this is a result of this sequence of events, which we can then zero in on the specifics of the process by, like for the Deccan traps, I recently posted a bunch of pictures. Maybe I'll just go to my Twitter of the angles, etc. The storm. That's not far enough. This one. This concept that the storm was here, it caused basalt to flow across and mound, and then as a result, the back pressure built up and deflected the current away, which then made the storm preferentially want to be opposite from the current. So it moved over here and shaped the basalt still, and then it fed into this region until the pressure built up enough that it then was caused to move down again, to move down here. But at this point, this region is largely shaped. So like all this stuff is just settling because the storm has passed it, and the storm is focusing the basalt outflows from the earth that are, it's influencing, it's focusing them. It's not just like in all directions spraying, it's focused down like that way, this way. And so like in the same way in North America, there's probably like, okay, first there was a current flowing this way and that related to certain features, but then the current's position changed, and like the, based on like when the current's position changed, then this nova occurred. Like then this nova occurred. That kind of thing. Like this looks like it cuts across here and cuts across this, like down here, to kind of intersect around here. So this one's probably related to this like generally splitting and reconverging to really produce like a swirl rather than just it passing through the region. Like it could just pass through just like over here and not show that kind of feature, but because there's a cross current that comes off of this side, so like things of that nature, like when did this cross current get formed? Maybe initially this whole thing was looking much more like this, but then as the current's position was moved over to the side, it just built mounds and so on. So we could probably time, like, well, this happened based on the radiometric dating, and this is the sequence of events enough to like map it out pretty well here. I'm fairly certain this is sufficient to actually begin to do that. I don't know the data enough to be like, okay, this is anomalous, this is anomalous, this is anomalous, okay, I was wrong kind of thing. So it's possible, but I am fairly certain, just based on everything I know and think I know, that it can be done for this region, for all of North America, to really be like, okay, this is why these features exist. what caused them. This is what caused them in detail, in precision, and not approximating, because it's accounting for what actually caused them, which is this current underneath the ground flowing, producing a new layer under the continental crust, basically, that then literally produced the ocean as well, because it was just such a in need of expanding that much that it just produced an ocean as well, an ocean floor as well. I'm just thinking if there's anything else I can say right now. I don't want to necessarily end it just arbitrarily. Like, that's good. Because, I mean, I might find some other stuff if I look around. Like, these shapes are interesting. What's that? Original? Nothing in there. This one's got it pretty good. Maybe this will say what it is. Or is this the freaking country map? It'd probably be nice to go through states. Maybe Pennsylvania, let's say. Let's just say Pennsylvania. LMNOP QRS. Maybe that. Statewide geological map. Maybe glad. A zip file. Geology, something specific. Really no map though. I could just cancel. I'm not gonna open that, so. Florida. Eocene is 56, okay. These are probably just deposits. I would really like to know what the table says for this. They must have an actual table on one of their websites. Da-da-da-da-da. Table. Maybe. Here we go. There we go. That looks like it's got actual labels. Can I save this? A, B, Q, S. What? Oh, it's up here. 7, 8, Y, N. Copy. Let's just throw this in Photoshop. New. So it doesn't look so janky. Maybe a background color somehow. Red. Did that do anything? Oh yeah. Layer. Oh yeah, so I couldn't even throw some contour or gradient overlay. This, I guess this just is this color and background. I thought it was see-through when I downloaded it. Yeah, what the, I don't know. Okay, so generally speaking, we got what looks to be this greenish color for this one. Oh, they really don't label it like that. Oh, damn, they don't even label it. Too. And they give names, like specifics, like Rio Grande. That's cool. Puget, Willamette, Lowland, Aquifer. This is aquifer related, I guess. This is straight up aquifers. This is probably informative, just because this is where water tends to prefer to fall to and build up into aquifers, which then would probably be related. Although it doesn't really make total sense to me just looking at it. It looks more like a geological type of rock map than anything. That does not have indication on the rock types. Principal aquifers are in 6 types of rocks and deposits. Colored areas show extent of each principal aquifer at or near the land's surface. At or near the land surface, there are aquifers in all of these colored regions. Wow. Alright, nothing too exciting there. Definitely some progress so far, but I don't want to get ahead of myself and just be like, that's good enough. Like, I know there's so much to be uncovered here. Landslide map. United States. It's something of that nature, maybe. Let's see. Really comes back to that. This California one's probably worth checking out. It doesn't have rock types on it, though. It really needs to list the rock types at that stage. If it's going to color it like that, it's probably on the original somewhere. It's somewhere. Eastern U.S. This looks plausibly like what I'm looking for, depending on what those words say on the left. Why did that not just do it? There we go. It's like, why was that clipboard the wrong size? It made no sense. This is a fantastic map. High pixels. Let's just look at the map for now. Looks like it's got really well labeled, time labeled too. Time and rock type, which is awesome. When it occurred and what type of rock it is. Maybe not what type of rock, but at least when it occurred. Yeah, this doesn't seem to actually have that Precambrian distinguished on it. Maybe it's this color. Let's see. Like a spotted one. Undifferentiated Precambrian. Oh, I see. A lot. So anything spotted is almost guaranteed to be Precambrian. It's looking like. So it is distinguished by age and rock type. This is crazy. Where is that? Like, that's clear as day that that's the center of one of those Nova type things. Where is that? Let's look at the map. Maybe there. Highly likely to be there. This is for sure a ring. So maybe it looks like it. Okay, so we got that region there. Yeah, okay. Grand Canyon. Oh, there's the Grand Canyon right next to that center. That would make sense then. Here's the Grand Canyon. Here's the center. maybe this region as a whole, this region was more like this, like covered in water. But then a nova occurred underground. This nova, maybe here. I don't think it's this, because this one's centered on... Let's find its GPS. Its coordinates 37109.7. 37 is way down here. 109.7. Down here. Maybe right here. One oh nine point 37.7. Seven point five, 109.9, 110, 37.5. This region appears to be, and over this. So we can kind of see the nova. So this is one of those instances where it looks like there's a lot of things that happen that kind of just overwrote what was occurring here. Like this current for sure came across here. And all this stuff looks like it might have been built up by novas and processes close, like essentially maybe the current initially went down this way, down over here, and maybe even out this way, but it closed the path off, like it filled the region with as much pressure as it could and started to create a wall here, maybe at some point, to start to direct the current more up this way. Just continue to move it up this way then. Like this gets filled, so the current then goes over through here instead of this way. But while it's going this way, maybe it's generally producing a nova that especially is visible on the surface still. Not quite as much here, but like, where's this boundary? 111.7, 35.5. Around there is where this region runs into this kind of wall. I don't think this is really shaped by that wall as much as by the nova center, though. The overlaying region. I feel like even if I record for an hour and I just make like a small discovery, it's still worth it. So for sure, these videos are worth it. Even if I'm just kind of sitting here looking over top of this a lot of the time, like for sure this video, I've made some things, some realizations I hadn't in the past that I'm sure no one else has yet. No offense to the world at large, but we're not looking at this stuff like this. So it's just unconsidered potentials, and so the fact that even one of them shows up is possibly priceless. Who knows? So it's probably useful enough, although it is a little slower paced to watch me kind of just linger, talk like this rather than scientifically. So this region kind of puts a boundary some reason. And Yellowstone, this whole stretch, a boundary to this. Back to the Grand Canyon, though, like it probably is related to when this region, maybe it uplifted, like there was water here, it uplifted, caused it to go through a very specific channel out of here. It just flowed out of the region because it was uplifted. And then, I mean, almost guaranteed, because of its positioning over top of this, the Grand Canyon is related to the fact that this was a uplifted region due to some type of upward pressures in a nova type event that's still visible here. This actually even reaches to Green River, which kind of got me looking at this region yesterday. So this nova for sure ties into Green River. Like its boundaries are up here. Like up here maybe? Where is this exactly? 38.9111. Pretty much here. This region is the boundary. I'm not sure why I would do that. Maybe just because there's a wall here. Like the energy that propagated this way kind of got stuck in this corner, and that caused it to go more so upward, to then create like a cross-sectional picture of a current flow that was upward, that then has like a rim, like a shell, like a body a tube that the current preferentially went through. What? Crazy. What is this? Just Utah. Cool. That's what I wanted to look. When did the Grand Canyon form? Recent. Wow, it only took 100 years since the Grand Canyon formed. 30, I said 35 million. Begins about 2 billion. I know I saw 35, right? Whole region was uplifted. Whole region was uplifted. Red Rock Country suggests the brightly colored rock left bare to the view by dryness and erosion. Red Rock. One of the most geologically intriguing features of the Colorado Plateau is its remarkable stability. Relatively little rock deformation, such as faulting and folding, has affected this high, thick crustal block within the last 600 million years or so, which is basically when the Earth was expanding. Is that window 600 million years is when it really began, and then influenced this area, probably more in this region. But although there are some newer features such as the water fold of Capitol Reef, water pocket fold, 50, 70 million years old. In contrast, provinces that have suffered severe deformation surround the plateau. So it really is an uplifted nova event for sure. It's for sure a nova that occurred underneath that then physically produced a sufficiently stable supportive structure of a ring to like lift the layer above and do so in a seemingly low deformation apparently in the rocks so that it's remarkably stable. Mountain building thrust up the Rocky Mountains to the north and east, and tremendous earth-stretching tension between the basin and range province created between subrange. So in this region, there's earth-stretching tension, which is where the current was flowing. Initially, it was flowing along here, but then it began to propagate further over again along the edge, and then it began to flow over through here. It was flowing initially. This was the edge initially, not actually even here, because it's a nova pushed the edges out here. Novas cause these regions in terms of the boundary. Here, this one's much more distinct right here, across here. So there was a nova there, but it didn't really support the structure like this one did. This one actually, when it novaed, it did so in a manner where it lifted it, but then it essentially, as it lifted it, it filled it in with a new material to just keep it lifted. Stay lifted, brah. Stay lifted. Okay. Precambrian and Paleozoic history of the Colorado Plateau is best revealed near its southern end, where the Grand Canyon has exposed rocks with ages that span almost 2 billion years. Oldest rocks at river level are igneous and metamorphic and have been lumped together as Vishnu basement rocks. For all early Proterozoic crystalline rocks exposed in the Grand Canyon region, the oldest ages recorded by these rocks fall from 1950 to 1680 million years. So the Precambrian goes back to around 2 billion years radiometric dating. Radiometric dating, not actually, but 2 billion years radiometric dating. An erosion surface is covered by sedimentary rocks and basalt flows, which was still Precambrian when the Earth was expanding the first time, it looks like, which is what this period is. Because it expanded twice. The first time it expanded was like Venus, like Mercury becoming Venus. The second time it expanded was a smaller Earth that had already broken into two components and had a moon, I believe. Like Venus was broken into two components, one of which was the moon, and the other was Earth at a smaller radius before expansion, and then it expanded. But when it was still becoming Venus, it was in this time frame, Venus-like. During first supernova of the planet, nova of the planet. Then a second nova occurred that was afterwards. So, yeah, that's during the first one. So then during the first expansion process, it had again similar basaltic flows and sedimentary rocks deposited, I guess. Then, in turn, they were uplifted and split into a range of fault block mountains. What is a fault block mountain? Very large blocks of rock, sometimes hundreds of kilometers in extent, created by tectonic and localized stresses in Earth's crust. Large areas of bedrock are broken up into blocks by faults. So pretty much, like, when this nova occurs beneath the surface, like, it's gonna uplift above the surface, but only so much. Like, it's not going to uplift the entire surface of the Earth. It's only going to uplift right there. So in instances of these novas, it's going to be common to see things of this nature. Fault block mountains, almost guaranteed. Practically, if not every fault block mountain could be tied. Just at that glance alone to these like underground novas that are not being accounted for yet. Extension of the ancestral Rockies. When did they form? Oldest Precambrian metaphor, blah blah blah. Precambrian sediment art on the dating back. Da, da, da. The current Rockies were raised 80 to 55. Basically leading into and just after the Earth's expansion. Which kind of makes sense, where that was just when like the rapid expansion occurred with a lot of things. Just a lot of energy flows were really starting to flow to a point where just the totality of it all was just so overwhelming to be approaching this time frame, having many things occur. Rockies were like Tibet. Okay. Extension, blah, blah, blah. What was I even looking for in this paper? This one, Colorado Plateau. This is where that Nova Center is. By 600 million years ago, North America had been leveled off to a remarkably smooth surface. So this is before the Earth expanded. It was remarkably smooth. Through the Paleozoic era, tropical seas periodically inundated the plateau region. Thick layers of limestone, sandstone, siltstone, and shale were laid down in the shallow marine waters. During time when the seas retreated, stream deposits and dune sands were deposited, where older layers were removed by erosion. Over 300 million years passed as layer upon layer of sediment accumulated. So in the early phases, 600 million, like right when the Earth started to expand, before the continents were fractured, like this region was, I believe what happened was this region emitted materials that flowed onto the surface of North America, but in so doing, they were really depositing just like sediments, like that, like it's saying here, kind of time frame. Layer upon layer of sediment accumulated. It was not until the upheavals that coincided began around 250 million years ago, which is really when the major like supernova, the novas under the surface of the Earth appear to begin to happen most prominently. Also, when the Appalachians, I think, are formed thereabouts, at least in one of the orogenies. So there's just a bunch of uplift, which definitely can be tied to these novas underground. And then short-lived rivers and lakes, yep, based on just the fact that it was uplifting, but also there was water on top of it. Covered by a warm, shallow sea when the Cretaceous Seaway opened in late Mesozoic time. Near when the Earth, again, near when the Earth expanded, like the actual rapid expansion phase is 66, so opened in late. That makes sense. Like, if water is beginning to flow out across the surface of the Earth, that it would begin to create such features in that general time frame, that then when the late Mesozoic ended, when the Earth actually expanded, this probably was no longer stable, so it was caused to drain, which is detectable in the vastness of the Mississippi River, like the quantity of draining. This is interesting. This one comes across there. Like, are there any novas? Like anything that looks like a mini nova there? This actually continues. I never noticed that. It goes all the way up there. Minor uplifts. Okay, let's keep reading and not skip ahead because it's a long paragraph. Some of the prominent isolated mountain ranges of the plateau, both near blah, blah, are cored by igneous rocks that were emplaced about 70 million years ago, just before building into. So it's just building into. It's not like up until 66 it was calm, and then 66 there was like a sudden change. It's just there's so much energy flowing through the earth that's accumulating that as it approaches 66, there's just a lot of things going on again. Minor uplift events continued through the start of the Cenozoic, which is just after, and were accompanied after the supernova, the fast phase of the Earth's expansion when it's supernovaed, where there's like a slow phase of the supernova building into 66 million from around 600 million. Minor uplift events continued through until basically because it's freely growing to a new radius, it's not putting as much pressure on the overlying surface unless novas are occurring. So maybe like the novas just start to stop around this time frame for this region. At least here, it probably does keep flowing. Like the current around 66 million maybe started to cut over in this region, and maybe that's why this is here, because it started to cut over there. Like a combination maybe, where it created a vortex here, but also one opposite, so it had like a boundary. When this one novaed, it only could nova out to the boundary. Something of that nature. Which then built a mound over there, more so than in the other regions. But it also had like a empty space around it because the currents cut through and around it, and just left this chunk, kind of like in Sarastra, Gur National Forest Park. How it's kind of has a space from the boundary of the peninsula of Sarastra. Minor uplifts continued, accompanied by some basaltic lava eruptions. So this really, the basaltic lava eruptions for certain are because of what's going on here. These currents are basalt. Like it's basalt lavas that are the mantle, pretty much, flowing and at times finding their way out, like through a pores or some opening that it creates, especially when these novas are going off in the region, to allow for like channels to then have the basaltic lava just kind of flow out from them. Colorful Claron Formation. Last part of the Cretaceous. So basically right when the Earth exploded. Record of deposition, that covers the last part. So Bryce Canyon region. Which is cool. Bryce Canyon is real cool. Let's check out Bryce Canyon. This kind of feature. These are also called the Thor's Hammer, I think this one's called. Yeah. I just looked at this. I didn't know that. It's not like I remembered that. I just happened to see that picture. And I was like, that's the same picture. That's Thor's hammer. Okay. Younger igneous rocks form spectacular topographical features. Ranges that dominate many views of southeastern Utah are formed about igneous rocks that were intruded in the interval of 20 to 31 million years. Laccoliths. Some of them are laccoliths, where there's just like a fracture that then allowed for the mantle to upwell. I presume it's a highly mantle material. These young igneous rocks may record processes in the Earth's mantle that are eating away at deep margins. Hopi Buttes in northeastern Arizona are held up by resistant sheets of sotic volcanic rocks extruded about 7 million years ago. About 6 of the San Francisco peaks near Flagstaff, south of the Grand Canyon, are volcanic landforms produced by igneous activity that began in the area of about 6 million years ago. Basalt erupted in Sunset Crater National Monument. Tectonic activity resumed in the area and started to unevenly uplift and slightly tilt the Colorado region. Okay, so let's just think about this. There's a current coming in this direction to this region, so odds are if there's a tilt, it's away, like downward to the east, upward to the west. Although, I guess it's possible that it could be downward to the west, upward to the east. But it's probably not so much north-south direction, more east-west. Unevenly, slightly. As much as 3 kilometers of uplift occurred 20 million years ago. Streams had their gradient increased and they responded by downcutting faster, reminding me of what I just said about the Grand Canyon. Headward erosion and mass wasting helped to erode cliffs back. Great tension developed in the crust, probably relating to changing plate motions far to the west. As the crust stretched, the basin and range province broke up into a multitude of down-dropped valleys and elongate mountains. Major faults such as the Hurricane Fault developed that separate the two regions. The dry climate was a large part in the rain shadow effect resulting from the rise of the Sierra Nevada further west. Yet for some reason not fully understood, the neighboring Colorado Plateau was able to preserve its structural integrity and remain a single tectonic block. Because it's got a support structure, it's pretty simple. It needs a support structure to be above water, dudes. I know. It's life. That's life for you right there. As the land rose, the streams responded by cutting ever deeper stream channels. The most well-known of these streams began to carve the Colorado Grand Canyon. I don't know how we haven't realized this. I don't know how we have not realized there are novas going on under the ground that are, I mean, there's clearly large rings. Like, this is clearly a ring. Maybe it's not absolutely in this one as distinguishable, but it clearly is one. And if you look around there, it clearly is one here. Like, especially this is clearly there. I think cut across this way. It was, I'm not sure. Or maybe that way. Like here. Maybe it was to here, and that's why this region, like this. Does that cover this one? This comes up this way. Across like there, was it? It's kind of hard to see it exactly in here because of this. I think it... Generally, though, it might actually go that far, where it goes up here, around here, and over here. So there was a vortex here with another vortex. Maybe this one, when it nova'd, because it was within another system, it could only send the debris of the nova, like, over this way. And that's why it's, like, boundaried, like, there. Is because it was part of this larger circle. Yeah. So that's some progress. That's another thing. Just another thing to add to the list of things that this world should be considering. Okay, until next time. See y'all soon.